The cottage cost me $542,000. The lawyer slid the deed across his desk on a Thursday afternoon in late May, 3 weeks after Mom's funeral. Dad had been gone for 2 years already. The property had been in our family since 1967. I drove up from Toronto the next morning. Victoria Day weekend was coming, and I wanted to get the place opened up before the summer people arrived and clogged Highway 11. The drive took just under 3 hours. I stopped in Gravenhurst for coffee and a sandwich, then continued north into Muskoka. The trees were that fresh, almost painful green they get in late spring. The lake still had that cool, dark look. Summer hadn't quite arrived yet. The cottage sat on 2 acres on the eastern shore of Lake Roseau. My father bought it when I was 7, back when you could still afford waterfront on a teacher's salary. He was a math teacher. Mom taught English. They'd saved for years. I remember the day we first saw it. The driveway was 100 yards of packed dirt and pine needles, winding down through white birch and maple to a small clearing. The cottage itself was modest. 2 bedrooms, a screened porch, a tiny kitchen, but it had a boathouse and a dock, and the water out front was deep enough for swimming. I'd spent every summer there until I was 18. My sister Patricia and I learned to swim off that dock. We'd spend entire days in the water, coming up only when Mom called us for lunch. Dad taught us to paddle a canoe, to read a map, to respect the wilderness. In the evenings, we'd sit on the porch and watch the sunset. The loons would start calling around 9 o'clock. That sound still gets me every time I hear it. Patricia and I had talked about the cottage after the funeral. She lived in Vancouver now, had for 20 years. Her daughter Melissa was 32, married to a guy named Brad. Patricia had no interest in keeping the place. Too far away. Too many memories, she said. I understood. My own wife Sarah had died 3 years earlier. Breast cancer. The cottage felt like one of the few places where I could still feel close to the people I'd lost. Patricia signed her half over to me. She didn't want any money for it. You'll actually use it, she said, and you need it more than I do. She was right about that. I'd retired from my job as a high school principal in March. 41 years in education. I was 62 years old and suddenly found myself with nothing but time. The house in Toronto felt too big, too quiet. I'd been thinking about spending the summers up north, maybe even selling the city place eventually. The cottage needed work. The roof was original. The dock needed replacing. But I had the time now, and I needed a project. I pulled into the driveway around noon that first day. The cottage looked smaller than I remembered. The cedar shingles had gone gray. The shutters needed paint. But the forest around it was exactly as I remembered. The smell hit me when I opened the car door. Pine and water and earth. Something in my chest loosened. I spent that first week cleaning. The place had been closed up for 2 winters. There was mouse damage in the kitchen. I replaced some screens on the porch. I hired a guy from town to fix the dock. I bought a new mattress for the main bedroom. I hung Sarah's photograph on the wall beside the bed. She'd loved this place. The second week, I started on the roof. I'm not a young man anymore, but I'm stubborn. I worked slowly, methodically. By the end of the week, I had a new roof on the main structure. The boathouse could wait. The third week, in early June, I finally had a chance to just sit. I'd bought a new Adirondack chair for the dock. I sat there in the late afternoon, watching the light change on the water. A loon surfaced about 20 yards out. It looked at me for a long moment, then dove. I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Peace. My phone rang around 6 that evening. It was Melissa. Uncle Robert, Mom told me about the cottage. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Thanks, sweetheart. How are you? How's Brad? We're good. Really good, actually. That's kind of why I'm calling. She paused. I heard her take a breath. Brad and I have been building something really exciting. A wellness brand. We have about 30,000 followers now on Instagram. That's wonderful, I said. I had no idea what that meant. The thing is, we're ready to take it to the next level. We want to start doing in-person retreats. Yoga, meditation, digital detox, weekends, that kind of thing. Another pause. And when Mom mentioned the cottage, I thought, that would be perfect. I watched the loon surface again. Perfect for what? For the retreats. I mean, it's right on the water. It's beautiful. It's exactly the kind of authentic, rustic experience people are looking for. She was talking faster now. I was thinking we could do maybe one weekend a month during the summer. 20 people max. We'd handle all the logistics. The setup, the takedown, everything. You wouldn't have to do anything. Melissa, I'm living here. This is my home now. Right, totally. But you'd still be there most of the time. Just one weekend a month. Maybe two during peak season. And I'd pay you, obviously. We're charging $2,000 per person for a weekend. So that's $40,000 per retreat. I was thinking maybe we could do a 60-40 split. You get 60% just for the space. That's almost $25,000 for literally doing nothing. I was quiet for a moment. A breeze had picked up. The water had gone choppy. I appreciate the offer, but no. This is my home. I'm not interested in having strangers here. But Uncle Robert, this could be amazing for both of us. You could make real money, enough to cover all your property taxes and maintenance, and still have plenty left over. I don't need the money, Melissa. I need the peace and quiet. Just think about it, okay? Don't say no right away. Talk to Mom. She thinks it's a great idea. I felt something cold in my stomach. You already talked to your mother about this? Well, yeah. She said the cottage has always been a family place. She thinks it makes sense to keep that going. Patricia signed her share over to me. This is my property now, not family property. Mine. God. Okay. I didn't mean to offend you. I just thought you'd be excited about the opportunity. Her voice had gone tight. But whatever. It's fine. Forget I asked. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there for a long time after that. The sun had gone down. The loons were calling. I should have felt peaceful. Instead, I felt uneasy. Patricia called the next morning. Rob, Melissa told me you shot down her idea. Good morning to you too. I'm serious. She's really hurt. She was so excited about this. Pat, I told her no. That's not shooting her down. That's just saying no. But why? It's a great opportunity. You'd make money, and she'd get to build her business. Everyone wins. I moved up here to have some peace. Not to run a hotel. It's not a hotel. It's one weekend a month. Maybe two. You'd still have the place to yourself most of the time. I don't want strangers here at all. That's the whole point. Patricia sighed. You know, Mom and Dad always said the cottage was for the whole family. They wouldn't have wanted you to be selfish about it. That word, selfish. It hit harder than it should have. I'm not being selfish. I'm using the place exactly as intended. As a home, Melissa's family too. And she's trying to build something. The least you could do is support her. By giving up my home one weekend a month? By being flexible. By thinking about someone other than yourself for once. I was quiet. Outside, a boat went by. The wake slapped against the dock. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said finally. But my answer is still no. Fine. But don't be surprised when Melissa stops calling. She's not going to forget this. She hung up. I tried to go back to my routine after that. I finished the boathouse roof. I stained the deck. I went into town for groceries and had lunch at the diner where I'd eaten since I was a kid. But the unease stayed with me. 2 weeks later, Melissa called again. Uncle Robert, I want to apologize. I was pushy. I should have respected your decision. That's okay, sweetheart. I understand you were excited. I've been thinking about it, though. What if we did just one weekend? As a trial run, if you hate it, we never do it again. But if it works, maybe you'd consider making it a regular thing. Melissa, please. Just one weekend, end of July. We already have 12 people signed up. I told them about the cottage, about how it's been in our family for generations. They're so excited. If I cancel now, I'll have to refund everyone. It'll kill our credibility. Something about that bothered me. You already told people? Before asking me again? I know. I got ahead of myself. But I really thought you'd come around. Please, Uncle Robert. One weekend. I'm begging you. I should have said no right there. But she was my niece. And maybe Patricia was right. Maybe I was being inflexible. One weekend, I said. End of July. But that's it. This isn't a trial for anything. It's a one-time thing because you already committed to people. Thank you. Oh my God, thank you so much. You won't regret this, I promise. I regretted it before I even hung up. The next week, Melissa sent me an email. It had an attachment, a waiver form. She wanted everyone who came to the cottage to sign it. I called her. What's this about? Oh, just standard liability stuff, in case someone gets hurt on the property. Melissa, if we need liability waivers, maybe this isn't a good idea. It's just a precaution. Everyone does it for these kinds of events. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That phrase should have been a red flag. A week later, I was in town when I ran into Tom Hendricks. Tom had been the Cottage Association president for 15 years. He'd known my parents well. Robert, heard you're doing wellness retreats now. That's quite a change. I stared at him. Where did you hear that? Melissa posted about it. Said the cottage is going to be hosting monthly events. Some of the neighbors aren't too happy about it. I'll be honest. We try to keep things quiet up here. Monthly events. I felt my hands go cold. Tom, there's been a misunderstanding. I agreed to one weekend. One, not monthly. He looked uncomfortable. Might want to talk to your niece then, because she's been promoting it pretty heavily. Even set up a booking page. I drove back to the cottage faster than I should have. I pulled up Melissa's Instagram on my phone. There it was, post after post about our family retreat center in Muskoka. Photos of the cottage, the dock, the lake. She'd even posted a price list. $2,000 per person for a weekend, $1,000 for a single day. I called her immediately. Uncle Robert. Hi. I was just about to call you. We have such good news. The July weekend sold out in 3 days. And we already have 8 people booked for August. Melissa, what the hell are you doing? I agreed to one weekend. Not a series. Not a business. I know. But the response has been incredible. And I figured once you saw how smoothly the first one goes, you'd be okay with continuing. You figured wrong. Cancel everything except the July weekend. I can't do that. People have already paid deposits. Some of them have already booked travel. Then refund them. This is my home. I'm not running a retreat center. Uncle Robert, please. You're not being reasonable. This is my business, my livelihood. You can't just pull the rug out. I never put a rug down. You did this without my permission. I have texts from you saying yes to July. That's permission. For one weekend. That's not how contracts work. I sat down. My chest felt tight. What are you talking about? I'm saying we have an agreement. And if you back out now, you'll be breaching it. I'll have to talk to my lawyer about damages. Melissa, are you threatening to sue me? I'm saying I've invested a lot of money and time into this, based on your agreement. I can't just eat that loss. I hung up. I sat on the porch for a long time. The sun was setting. The loons were calling. But I couldn't hear them over the sound of my own heartbeat. Patricia called that evening. What did you say to Melissa? She's in tears. Did she tell you she's been advertising my cottage as a retreat center? That she's been taking bookings for the entire summer without my permission? She's trying to build a business, Rob. She thought you supported her. I agreed to one weekend. One. Not a business arrangement. Well, she's already committed to people. You can't just abandon her now. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm protecting my home. Your home that used to be our family's home. That Mom and Dad built for all of us. And they left it to me. Because I live 3,000 miles away. Not because you deserved it more. I was quiet. I think, Patricia said slowly, that you're being vindictive. You're punishing Melissa because you're bitter about Sarah. About losing people. You want everyone else to be as isolated as you are. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you had anyone visit? When's the last time you let anyone in? I let Melissa in. Look where that got me. You're going to lose your whole family over this. You know that? Melissa won't speak to you. I probably won't either. Is that really what you want? I want my home to myself. That's all I've ever wanted. Then, congratulations. You'll get it. She hung up. I sat there in the dark for a long time. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being selfish. Maybe I should just let Melissa have her weekends. It was only a few days a month. What did it matter? But it did matter. This place was mine. The only place where I could still feel close to Sarah, to my parents, to the person I used to be. And Melissa was trying to take it away. I drove into town the next morning. There was a lawyer there, a woman named Janet Morrison. She'd handled my parents' estate. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Do you have any written agreement with Melissa? Just texts. I said yes to one weekend in July. And she's advertising it as an ongoing business? Yes. Using photos of your property? Your name? The family name. But yes. She nodded. Robert, she's committed fraud. At minimum, she's violated your property rights. At worst, she's running a business under false pretenses and exposing you to massive liability if someone gets hurt. What do I do? First, we send a cease and desist. She shuts down all advertising immediately. Second, you change your locks. All of them. Do you have any reason to believe she has a key? She might. Mom kept a spare key in town. Melissa could have gotten it. Change the locks today. Third, I draft a formal notice that she's trespassing if she shows up without permission. And fourth, she paused. Fourth, you might want to consider a restraining order if she continues. She's my niece. She's also running a fraudulent business using your property. Family doesn't make fraud legal. I hired a locksmith that afternoon. He changed every lock on the cottage and the boathouse. I had new keys made. I kept one and put the spare in a safety deposit box at the bank in town. Janet sent the cease and desist the next day. Melissa called me immediately. Are you serious right now? You're threatening me with legal action? You're running a business on my property without permission. I have permission. You said yes. To one weekend. Not a business. Take down all the posts. Cancel all the bookings except July. That was our agreement. I'm not doing that. And if you try to stop me, I'll sue you for breach of contract and emotional distress. Brad's uncle is a lawyer. He says we have a case. Then I guess we'll see each other in court. She hung up. The post stayed up. If anything, she posted more. She started a whole series about creating our dream space in Muskoka. She posted photos of the interior of the cottage. Photos I'd never sent her, which meant she'd been inside. Recently, I called Janet again. She's been in the cottage. After I changed the locks. How? I don't know, but she's posted interior photos from this week. We need to file a police report. This is breaking and entering. I met with the OPP officer 2 days later. Young guy, probably 30. He looked at the photos on Melissa's Instagram. These are definitely recent. You can see the new furniture. I haven't given her permission to be here. Has she responded to the cease and desist? No. He nodded. I'll pay her a visit. Have a conversation. Sometimes that's enough. It wasn't enough. Melissa took down the interior photos, but she posted a long story about family betrayal and bitter people who can't stand to see others succeed. She didn't name me, but everyone knew who she meant. I started getting messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Most of them thought I was being unreasonable. The July weekend approached. I was dreading it, but I'd agreed to it, and I'd honor that. One weekend, then never again. The Wednesday before, Melissa called. Just confirming logistics for Saturday. We'll arrive around 10 a.m. The guests are coming at noon. Fine. Oh, and we're bringing some equipment. A sound system for the yoga sessions. Some cooking gear for the meals. Is the basement accessible? I don't want anything stored here permanently. It won't be permanent. Just for the summer season. Melissa. It's fine. Don't worry about it. See you Saturday. She hung up before I could argue. I should have known then. I should have seen it coming. Saturday morning, I was on the dock when I heard vehicles coming down the driveway. Plural. I walked up to the cottage. There were 3 vehicles, Melissa and Brad in their SUV, another car I didn't recognize, and a van. A white cargo van with Serenity North Wellness printed on the side. Melissa jumped out. Uncle Robert, good morning. Thanks so much for doing this. What's with the van? Oh, that's for equipment. We have a lot of stuff to bring in. Melissa, I said one weekend, you're not setting up a permanent operation here. It's not permanent. It's just for the season. She waved at Brad. He was already opening the back of the van. We'll store it in the boathouse. You won't even know it's there. No, nothing gets stored. You bring what you need for this weekend, and you take it all when you leave. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in her face that made my blood run cold. She wasn't planning to leave. Uncle Robert, maybe we should talk inside. I don't think so. Please, just for a minute. Against my better judgment, I followed her onto the porch. Brad stayed by the van. The other car hadn't opened yet. Melissa sat down. She folded her hands. I'm going to be honest with you. This isn't just about one weekend. I know. I told you to cancel everything else. I can't. But it's more than that. She took a breath. Brad and I are moving up here. For the summer at least. Maybe longer. I stared at her. What? We gave up our apartment in Toronto. Serenity North is our full-time thing now. And we need to be where the business is. Which is here. This is MY home. I know. And we're not asking to live in the main cottage. That's yours. But the boathouse has a bedroom, a bathroom, a little kitchen. We can stay there. You won't even know we're here most of the time. Melissa, no. Absolutely not. Uncle Robert, please. We have nowhere else to go. And this is family property. Family helps family. There it was. That phrase. The one I'd been dreading. Get out. What? Get out of my cottage. Get off my property. Now. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You have 60 seconds to get back in your vehicles and leave. And if we don't, then I call the police. She stood up. Her face had gone hard. You're going to regret this. I have 12 people showing up here in 2 hours. They've paid. They've booked travel. Some of them flew in from the States. If you ruin this for me, I will sue you for every cent you have. Sue away. I pulled out my phone. I dialed 911. Wait. She held up her hand. Okay. Fine. We'll leave. But let me do this one event. The people are already on their way. I can't cancel now. You should have thought of that before you tried to move in. The 911 operator answered. 911. What's your emergency? I need an officer at 247 Lakeshore Road, Lake Rosso. I have trespassers who are refusing to leave. Melissa's face went white. Brad started walking toward the porch. The doors to the third car opened. A man and a woman got out. They looked confused. Sir, are you in immediate danger? The operator asked. Not physically. But they're refusing to leave my property. Units are on the way. Stay on the line. Brad reached the porch. What the hell, man? You need to leave. Now. We're not leaving. Mel has a business to run. Not on my property. The man from the third car walked over. I'm sorry. Is there a problem? We're here for the wellness retreat. I looked at him. There is no retreat. This woman has been advertising a business on my property without permission. I'm sorry you were misled, but you need to leave. The man looked at Melissa. What's he talking about? He's lying. This is a family dispute. Don't listen to him. I own this property. I have the deed. And I never gave permission for any business operation. The woman from the car was recording on her phone now. This is insane, Brad said. You said yes. You agreed to July. I agreed to one weekend. Not you moving in, not a business setup, not any of this. You're splitting hairs. I'm protecting my home. 2 OPP vehicles pulled into the driveway. The officers got out. One of them I recognized. Officer Chen. He'd been the one I spoke to before. Mr. Fletcher, what's going on? These people are trespassing. I've asked them to leave. They're refusing. Chen looked at Melissa. Miss Wakefield, we spoke 2 weeks ago. I explained that you couldn't operate a business here without your uncle's explicit permission. He gave permission. Show him the texts. Uncle Robert. Show him where you said yes. I pulled out my phone. I showed Chen the texts. He read them. These say, you agreed to one weekend at the end of July. That's next weekend. What? No. Today is July 29th. That's the end of July. July 29th is a Wednesday, Chen said patiently. The last weekend of July is August 5th and 6th. I watched Melissa's face crumble. She'd gotten the date wrong. But people are coming. They'll be here any minute. Then you need to contact them and tell them there's been a mistake, Chen said. This property is private. You don't have permission to be here today. This is ridiculous. He's doing this on purpose. Ma'am, you need to leave. Now. Or I'll have to charge you with trespassing. The couple from the third car were already backing away. The woman was still recording. Brad put his hand on Melissa's shoulder. Come on. Let's go. No. This is our business. This is our future. Melissa. Brad's voice was firm. We're leaving. She turned to me. I will never forgive you for this. Never. I'm sorry you feel that way. They got in their vehicles. Brad had to physically guide Melissa to the SUV. She was crying. The van backed out. The other two vehicles followed. I stood on the porch and watched them go. Officer Chen stayed for a few minutes. Do you want to press charges? No. I just want them to leave me alone. I'd recommend getting a restraining order, just to be safe. I'll think about it. He nodded. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. After he left, I went back down to the dock. I sat in my chair. My hands were shaking. An hour later, my phone started buzzing. Texts, dozens of them. From Patricia, from other relatives, from people I barely knew, all saying the same thing. How could I do that to Melissa? How could I humiliate her like that? She'd lost her apartment, invested everything in this business, and I'd destroyed it all. I turned my phone off. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. I kept expecting Melissa to show up, or Patricia, or someone, but no one came. I went into town for groceries. People stared at me. The story had gotten around. Tom Hendricks avoided eye contact when I saw him at the hardware store. I was the bad guy, the bitter old man who couldn't stand to see his niece succeed. Janet called me on Thursday. Robert, we need to talk. What now? Melissa's lawyer contacted me. They're claiming you caused economic damages by backing out of your agreement. They're asking for $50,000. I sat down. I never had an agreement, not for what she was doing. I know, and we'll fight it. But I wanted you to be prepared. This is going to get ugly. It did get ugly. Over the next month, the lawsuit moved forward. Melissa gave interviews to local papers about elder abuse and family property disputes. She painted herself as a young entrepreneur destroyed by a vindictive relative. She posted constantly on social media. Her followers ate it up. Brad left her in late August. I heard about it through the family grapevine. Apparently he'd had enough of the drama. The wellness business never happened. Melissa moved back to Toronto, into Patricia's spare room. Patricia still wouldn't speak to me. In September, Janet and I went to court. The judge read through everything. The texts, the cease and desist, the police reports, Melissa's social media posts. He took about 5 minutes to rule. Miss Wakefield, you misrepresented your agreement with the plaintiff. You attempted to establish a commercial operation on private property without clear permission. Your claim for damages is without merit. Case dismissed. Melissa stood up. But I lost everything because of him. You lost everything because you overreached. This court has no sympathy for your position. You're fortunate Mr. Fletcher isn't countersuing for fraud. We left the courthouse. Melissa tried to follow me to my car. I hope you're happy, she said. You destroyed my life. I stopped, turned around. You destroyed your own life, Melissa. You lied. You manipulated. You tried to take something that wasn't yours. And when you got caught, you blamed everyone but yourself. I'm your niece. That doesn't give you the right to my property. Or my life. Family is supposed to support each other. Family is supposed to respect each other. You didn't respect me. You didn't respect my home. You didn't respect my decision when I said no. She was crying now. I just wanted to build something, to have something of my own. Then build it with your own resources, not mine. I got in my car and drove back to Muskoka. The cottage was exactly as I'd left it. Quiet, peaceful, mine. I made myself dinner that night. Sat on the porch. Watched the sun go down. The loons started calling around 9. A beaver swam by, leaving a V-wake in the still water. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. I'm sorry. That was all it said. I looked at it for a long time. Then I put the phone down and went back to watching the lake. I've been up here full time since then. Winter came. The lake froze solid by January. I learned to cross-country ski on the old logging roads behind the property. I learned to appreciate the silence of snow. I learned that loneliness and solitude aren't the same thing. Patricia visited in March. We didn't talk about Melissa. We talked about Mom and Dad instead. About Sarah. About the years we spent here as kids. It was a start. Melissa sent me a letter in April. She apologized. Said she understood now why I'd done what I did. She didn't ask to visit. She didn't ask for anything. Just said she was sorry. I wrote back. Short. Simple. Told her I accepted her apology. Told her I hoped she'd find what she was looking for. I don't know if we'll ever have a relationship again. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But I have my peace. I have my home. And I've learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable them. The ice went out in late April. The loons came back. I sat on the dock and watched them. One of them surfaced close to shore, maybe 10 feet away. It looked at me for a long moment. Then it dove. I'm still here, still watching, still listening to the sound of the water against the dock, the wind in the pines, the loons calling in the evening. This place is mine, not because I bought it or inherited it, but because I chose it, and I chose to protect it. Some people will say I was wrong. That family should always come first. That I should have been more flexible, more giving, more willing to share. Maybe they're right. But I'm 63 years old. I've spent my whole life taking care of other people, teaching their children, solving their problems, being reasonable, being flexible. This place is the one thing I have that's just mine, and I'm not sorry for keeping it that way. I sit here every morning now, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise over the water. The surface is like glass on calm days, rippled and dark when the wind picks up. I've learned to read the weather by the way the light hits the trees on the far shore. I think about my parents sometimes, about whether they'd be disappointed in me, but I don't think they would be. They taught me to stand up for myself, to know my own mind, to understand that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. And I think about Sarah, about what she'd say if she were here. I think she'd pour herself a coffee, sit down beside me, and say what she always said when I was struggling with a decision. You did the right thing. I like to think she's right. The cottage still needs work. Always will. That's the nature of owning a place like this. But I have time. All the time in the world. And every morning, I wake up to this. To peace. To silence. To home. That's worth more than any amount of money. More than any family approval. More than anything else I can think of. I'm here. And I'm staying. That's the end of it.